Hi, I'm Joel Lima, editor of Data Economy, and this is Frontline. Today we talk to the man behind some of the industry's biggest hires, and that man is Peter Hannaford, chairman and founder of Datacenter People. Peter, thanks a lot for talking to me. You try to match people to jobs and jobs to people, but what's been the most common issue that you've seen over the years?
Well, I mean, exactly that. I think in the past, people haven't paid as much attention to the matching, getting the right people as they did. They were looking at a job spec. They were looking at a requirement, and they were taking a CV and they were ticking off the boxes between just to make sure people had everything they needed in terms of experience. Today, it's much more about getting the right people and getting great people. And if you're looking for great people, the most important thing you need actually is intellect. We all want smart people.
People skills.
We want people skills. We want people that are smart, that have got the right values, the right behaviours, the motivations, and the experience. But experience is the one thing out of all those things that you continually learn. You'll never learn to be smarter, unfortunately. You're either born. Intellect is established at a fairly early age. There's no course you can go on to make you more smart. So I think what we're finding today is people are spending much more time on making sure they get it right. I posted something the other day saying, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait until you hire an amateur. And if you do get it wrong, it can be very expensive.
And brand damaging. But when it comes to teaching skills and for data centers, cloud, internet, and then the whole new economy, what's gone wrong? What's going on at the moment? Because people are not really learning what they should be learning. It's changing, but not at the speed that the industry will need.
Yeah, if you look at, our industry is fairly young anyway. So the word data center wasn't even coined until the mid-90s, 1995, 1996, when people started to talk about data centers. So it's a relatively new industry.
So to interrupt, but we already have heard about mainframes and all those sort of things, which is the predecessor.
Yeah. Well, they were computer rooms then.
So you cannot compare more or less.
Well, you can't, because if you look at what a computer room used to look like, and you look, actually physically they look very much the same, but what's behind them is very different. If you look at the journey from the old mainframe, big iron, when your computer got delivered on the back of a truck, and it was all labelled IBM, the whole thing came from IBM, to today where you're getting everything from different, and you're putting it all together, but still. The data center today is still what the computer was, in the early 70s. So what's different is how we're using it, obviously. So it's online, it's instant, it's availability. Whereas in those days, it was batch processing, and you waited till the next day before you got any output.
But then, as we move from that time, what actually has gone wrong with getting the right skills into people?
We're getting there slowly. Those skills sort of didn't exist, so we're evolving. But as I say, if you get the right people, the people that can be trained, and the people that fit the culture of the company, that's another important thing, that you put the right people in the right companies, then that's when people will start to learn faster. But it's much more a client focus now. It's what we're using the data centers for, because back then we didn't actually know what was happening. People are much more aware today of what the outputs are and why we need data centers. Our lives are controlled by the internet these days. So internet, cloud, there's nothing we can do, nothing we could do without the internet today. So it's becoming vital, and even at an early stage, people are understanding exactly what, how you use the technology.
Okay, and even though we're talking about people today, what's changing the data center is also artificial intelligence and the automation of data centers, machine learning and everything else, which does worry some people in terms of their job security and why do we still need humans in the data center. And we have seen massive facilities being run by 1 to 5 people, when people look at them and think they should be run by 100 to 200, which is not efficient staff-wise. Should humans worry about their jobs in the data center space or the cloud space?
Well, they should worry. If they listen to Stephen Hawking or Elon Musk, they should worry, period, because the humans are going to be redundant in a few years' time. I'm not sure I think we should go that far. I think what AI or what machine learning will do is take away the bad jobs, the repetitive jobs, the jobs that, who wants to be called out in the middle of the night because some lights are flashing on a server at 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't really want to do that. If there was ways we can automate that and prevent that happening, and and make people do the smart jobs. I mean, AI will never replace creativity and things like that. It will replace, boring things, and it hopefully will remove errors, because still, 80% of downtime, even right going back to the start, even today, 80% of downtime are due to human errors. If we can take out the error bit and become more creative and do more, then I think there's going to be a future for some time.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, the jobs will change, but we're still going to be needed.
What would you say is the one job will never disappear in the cloud space?
Good question.
That one role.
I think probably the technician. You'll always need a technician. Somebody that's monitoring. Things can go wrong, and things will go wrong. I mean, that's going to happen.
This way it goes.
Yes, it will happen. So identifying problems early on and fixing them, even though AI hopefully will learn to fix a lot of these problems. I think somebody, actually monitoring and making sure everything is running fine, I don't think that will ever disappear. I don't think anyone would ever delegate that, completely to a system.
Okay, and then we're talking about jobs today, but there's a new workforce coming into the market, and that's the millennials. And in a few years' time, there'll be the Generation Z as well coming to the market. What sort of mindset do you see these people having, and how's the industry adapting to them? What needs changing? What's your view around the millennials and the younger generations?
We need them, obviously, because old people like me are going to have to retire at some stage. They're not aware of the industry. That's the whole problem. They know about, they're using mobile phones from the age of 3 and upwards. So they know what a mobile phone is. They can download apps. We all, nobody watches live TV anymore. It's all box sets or downloads. 30% of bandwidth in the US is Netflix. So we all are aware of it, but we don't know that behind all this, there's a data center. So the very fact that we use the word data center, I think, is wrong. We should start, if we started to talk about ourselves in the, when someone says, what do you do? And you say, I work in the data center industry or segment, they haven't really got a clue. When you say internet, cloud, suddenly it's more sexy. So I think what we need to do to get more young people attracted is to use a different language. That's all. We start talking about, we're involved in the internet, and in fact the bit we work in is the infrastructure that underpins that. It's where all the data is stored and processed and communicated. Okay. But people, they know the components, but they don't associate it with their mobile or their iPad.
But do you think it's actually even a good thing for the general public to know what a data center is? Is it not safer to keep it a bit under wraps a little bit? Because some people do say that.
I say they know what it is, but they don't think about it. I mean, if you said, where do you think all this stuff is stored? It's in a server, or it's in a rack of servers, or it's in a room that's got thousands and thousands of racks of servers. It becomes fairly obvious, but they don't think about it, and they don't think about it as a career until you interest them. I mean, I was in Dublin a couple of weeks ago, and at a conference, and we had a stand, and it was a conference where they allowed, it was free to enter, and therefore you get a lot of students. Now, a lot of people, the students come up and they'll take pens and things, and a lot of people think they're a waste of time. They're obviously not a waste of time, because they're our future. And the course tutor, they were doing, I think it was on some networking degree, the course tutor had brought them all down from the north to Dublin to attend this, to find out more about data centres. And they knew far more about, data centres than I thought. I mean, first they knew what a data centre was. And secondly, they were all very interested in somehow getting engaged in the technology of the future, because this is our life. So once they're made aware of this is the future, I think the rest of it is quite easy. Then we can pick the best. But they are the future. They're the people with the intellect that I was telling you about. They've already got intellect, motivations, values, behaviours. They don't have the experience, but they get all those other things right, and they will learn very quickly.
That's actually very interesting, because 2 years ago, more or less, I was at the conference as well, and the CEO said it was time to open the data center to kids, even kids age 8, 9, 10. And people laughed at him. And I thought that was wrong anyway, but I thought laughing at him was wrong. I think the idea was good. Do you think the data center doors have been closed for too long and it's time to open them now?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, the problem at the moment is because it's the same people. People move around, and I've got to say that's what we do for a living. So what, my views on getting more young people is purely altruistic. Really, it's the future of the industry, and I'm quite passionate about the industry. But yeah, it is because this is. It is the future, and so opening the doors to these people and letting them be more creative is exactly what we should be doing. And if we don't do it, as I say, you're going to get the cookie cutter approach. But you're getting people in, you'll hire people in who built this data center over here, and I now want you to build me a data. It's going to look exactly the same as that one. And if you look at pictures of data centers in the 1980s and today, they actually don't look too different. You've still got raised floors, suspended ceilings. Why do we have a raised floor in a data center? I mean, I don't know really. I mean, it hires up a lot of cables. But if you got somebody if you ask these kids, I want you to design me build me a data center, design a data center, and they've never been in a data center in their lives before, but you tell them why you need it, it wouldn't look anything like the data centers that we go into today. Nothing.
But maybe some of them would actually be a good idea. But talking about Datacenter People now, you don't call yourself interesting. You don't call yourself a recruitment company. You call yourself a talent acquisition company.
Yeah.
What's the difference between those two?
There's a difference. So again, this is the evolution. There is still the need for, so there's two ends of the spectrum. There's the recruitment agency here, which will deal in jobs basically. They're a jobs factory. They tend to be for the general jobs, they could be administration, secretaries, whatever, where there's a large number of jobs that you're looking to fill and a large pool of people looking for that specific job. So they'll send in their CVs, they'll apply for the jobs, and you can build up a big filing chest of CVs. At our end of the spectrum, we're more talent acquisition, and there now is, if you Google talent acquisition, you'll see there is a distinct a difference in descriptions of these two roles, and even companies, enterprises now distinguish between HR and talent acquisition. They've recognised that actually finding talent is very different to processing it, to drawing up contracts and looking after people when they're there. So we're at the sniper end, trying to find people, and as I said earlier, it's finding people that are right for that company, have the right culture. I mean, I used to work for a big firm, and I knew the culture wasn't quite right for me. I'm a bit more entrepreneurial, so I probably wouldn't fit that culture. But the company I'm talking about, we're tier 1 recruiter for them. But I know exactly the kind of people that they should be hiring, and so we fill those requirements with people that have got the right skills, the right characteristics.
Okay, and then you got a presence in Asia, Europe, and North America. What's the business looking like, and where are you going to go in 2018?
30% of our business today is in Asia Pacific, 30% is in the US, 20% is in the UK, and 20% is in the rest of Europe this year in 2017. Asia Pacific is clearly the biggest potential. As I said, we're on the, we're the guys sort of creating the infrastructure for cloud and internet. So there's population of 4 billion in Asia Pacific. Only half of them are connected to the internet today. So there's another 2 billion potential people just to hook up. Once they've connected, they're going to start using it. They're going to start downloading Netflix. And so that is potentially enormous in terms of growth. The US is the biggest market, so that's churn, and they're still building big data centers in the US, and the rest of Europe. So we're kind of we're trying to hit them all at the same time. We have an office in Singapore. We're boosting that next year. We're hiring more people for the Singapore office, and then we'll do the same for the US, and we're just set up in Dublin too. So. Not sure what's going to happen. New hub of Europe. Yeah, so we've got a foot in the
UK and Ireland, yes, just to prevent Brexit.
Well, to enhance Brexit, I think we'd rather call it. Yeah, so we think we're covering everywhere, but with our model, we don't need lots and lots of people. We work with companies, so our researchers are attached to firms and not jobs. So we will work for a company, and we'll understand the culture of that company and the job descriptions. That if they're looking for people, they tend to fall into the same sort of categories, whether they're in Australia, Hong Kong, San Francisco, the UK. The people they're looking for are the same. So the researchers are attached to the companies rather than jobs.
And with these industries, people are quite flexible to move around as well. Just one last question. Have you seen any demand coming in from Africa? Have you seen an increase in requests for Africa?
Well, our last 2 placements this week have been in Tanzania, funnily enough. Funny you should ask that. So it is.
We don't know who.
Well, there's not many people building a data center in Tanzania, and we're engaged with early stage discussions in Morocco at the moment. It is, again, there's quite a way to go. Nigeria. I used to live in Nigeria. I lived in Nigeria for 3 years. The population is growing enormously. The thirst for technology is growing. The investment is a little slow, but clearly that's another big continent. Maybe we'll follow it around and we'll end up with data center people in Nigeria or something at one stage. Yeah.
And you'll let us know that first.
Of course, you'll be there with us. Yeah. We'll be at the show.
Okay. Peter, thanks a lot for talking to me. Right. Don't forget you can follow Data Economy on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and also visit the website on www.data-economy.com.